Hi, third grade. I'm going to show you how to use the catalog to find fairy tales because I know that you're studying them right now. If you go and put fairy tales and hit subject in the catalog, then you'll see that fairy tales are located in a lot of different places. So some of the ones are not the classic ones that you're thinking of, some are chapter books, and some are the ones that you're thinking of. So the best way to do this is if you go back and do an advanced search. We're going to choose Mantua as our library. For subject, I'm going to include fairy tales, and it has to be plural. I'm not sure why. Whoops. And for location, this means where in the library do you want to find it. And most people don't realize that classics is a place in the library where you find fairy tales. So we're going to click on search, and this will be most of your classic fairy tales that you think of. The section of the library that you want to look for is labeled with this sign, classics, and it is this section, this small section actually, in the back of the library where the everybody books are. So if you go back here, some of these are located we have some in the graphic novel section. So if you go back though, if you go to any of these, the place that you can test for sure is if you go to the catalog record. That's the place where you'll find out for sure if it's listed as a fairy tale, and indeed it is. This is also a graphic novel, but because it's a classic fairy tale, it's in the classic section. If you would rather try a different search, if you want to go with fairy tales and instead of classics, some of them are actually in the everybody section, which can make it confusing, but this is the picture book section, and a lot of these are retellings of fairy tales. So here you have Cinder Elephant instead of Cinderella. Here you have fairy tales, which are slightly different. So if you're looking for something that is a slight variation or a little bit different from the traditional fairy tales, then you'll want to look in the everybody section. If instead you want to have a chapter book, you can look in the fiction section. There are lots of fairy tales that are retellings that are in the fiction section. So if I choose that, these are the chapter books, and there are lots and lots of retellings. This is a popular series, so this is where you'll find those books. So these again are not the traditional ones, but if you look in any of these, and you look in that catalog record, that last tab, then you will see fairy tales. So if I go back and I try to look for something that I know is a fable, I know that Aesop is, let me just look here, I'm going to look in any section, and I click search. Okay, those are two chapter books. This one, The Hare and the Tortoise, a fable from Aesop. If I go here, you'll see that under the catalog record, it's not classified as a fairy tale. So this one is under fables, folk, and folklore. So you'll still find it, however, in the classic section. And the number for the classic section, when you go back to the library and you go to this section right here, all of these books have a number, and that number is 398.2. You don't need to memorize this number, but if you see it, it means that you have a classic fairy tale or fable or folk tale. Those are supposed to be in nonfiction because they reflect the cultures from which they came, but we put them in fiction because they are made-up stories. So if you have any questions about fairy tales or how to find them, then just let us know here in the library. Thanks.